Hi y'all, this is Regina. I think by now y'all know I hate writing instructions, so this is going to be kind of a quick demonstration of how these Thanksgiving turkey gnomes stitch out. Okay, so here's the little male gnome. This is the 5x7, and the 4x4 is exactly the same. He's got color number 1 is the shoes, color number 2 is the feathers, color number 3 are these darker feathers, 4 is his little outfit, 5 is the outside of his beard, and I did this because the graphic that I got was this way. 6 is the inside of his beard, 7 are these little squigglies right here, 8 is his hat band here, 9 is his hat, the top and the bottom, you can see it here. 10 is the shading right here. 11 is the buckle, and 12 is the inside of the buckle. 13 is his nose, 14 is the cheeks, and 15 is his mouth. So that's how he stitches out. Now let me kind of let it go semi-fast so you can see how he stitches. There is underlay on these. Okay, there goes the second layer of feathers, and it goes around and does the right hand side, and then it's going to jump down and do the inside feathers. I used a chocolate brown on those. And then it does his sleeve, and then a pant leg, and then the other pant leg, and then the other sleeve. And now it's doing the outside of his beard, which I made it a silver color, and then it's going to do the inside, and I did him in a kind of a white. And it does have a little ribbing in it, and I have it stitched out, and I will post pictures of it. Alright, and now it does the band, and then it does the top part of the hat, and then it's going to do the brim of the hat, and then it's going to do the shading and the buckle, and the inside of the buckle, and his nose, and then his cheeks, and I'm going to have to move that around. I just realized. And that's it. Alright, so I am going to move those cheeks to where they stitch before the nose. I'll do it now so I don't forget. Alright, so the cheeks will stitch first and then the mouth. Let me save this. Save. Alright, so I'm going to go over and do the little girl gnome. Alright, so color number 1 is her shoes, 2 feathers, 3 the inside of the feathers, 4 is her clothes, 5 are her braids, and 6 is the outline making the braids, 7 is the outside of the bows, and then some highlighting on the bows. On 8, 9 is the band of the hat, 10 is the hat, 11 is the shading, 12 is the buckle, 13 is the inside of the buckle, and 14 is her nose. Alright, so I'll let you see her stitch out and get it a little faster. And at least this gives you an opportunity to see how it stitches. It, does the same thing on the machine. And like I said, I do have stitch outs that I will be posting with the files. Alright. And then it's going to do the darker feathers, kind of separate. You can do these whatever color you want. And then the dress, I just did it in a fall color. It's not really an orange, it's I guess a burnt orange. Alright, and then it's going to come in, do her sleeves, and then do the braids. And this goes a lot faster than me stitching it and y'all watching me stitch. As long as I get your pictures, I think that'll work out well for y'all. And the bow, and then the other bow, and then kind of a little outlining of the bow. Then it does the brim of the band of the hat, does the hat just like the excuse me, the male did. And then it's going to do the brim. I'm sorry, it does the hat, and then it does the brim. And then it does the shading, and then the buckle, and then the inside of the buckle, and the nose, and around the nose. And that's that. So let me close that. Now here is the applique of the girl. So this one we need to talk about. So 1 does the shoes, 2 does the feathers, 3 does the inside feathers. All right, so if you've done any of my applique before, this pink is a placement stitch. You would stitch this and then you put your fabric over it. The blue is a tack down of your fabric, and then the orange is a sorry, let me back up. The tack down of the fabric is blue, so it tacks it down, and you go in and you trim all the way around, really, really close to the line. And 6 comes back and does a stitch down, but it doesn't. Part of it does a open zigzag. Part of it just does another stitch down of your things. You'll see it in a minute. And then 7 is going to stitch her sleeves. So here you would just put in whatever color you've used to stitch the dress. You would match that with her sleeves. And then 8 is her braids, and then the stitching of the braids to make it look like braids, and then the bow, and then the outlining of the bow, and then the band of the hat. And then here we go with the applique of the hat. Pink is a placement stitch, so it'll stitch that. You put your fabric over it. Then it's going to come down and do a tack down on top of your fabric. Then you're going to stitch. You're going to cut right up against that line. Then it's going to do a open zigzag, a very light zigzag. Then it's going to come back and do a satin stitch on top of the lines, and it'll cover the edges of your fabric. Then it's going to go and do the same thing for the brim of the hat. It'll do a placement stitch, and then it's going to do a tack down. You're going to trim it all the way around, real close. Then it's going to come in and do another, it'll do a zigzag only on the parts that aren't going to be covered up by something else. So it'll do a zigzag here, an open zigzag, and a zigzag here. And it just has lines connecting those. And then if there's fabric outside that zigzag, you want to trim it because you want this to be really close. And then it's going to do your satin stitching around those areas that aren't going to be covered up by anything else. Then it's going to do the shading, the buckle, the inside of the buckle, and then the nose. So let me let you watch this stitch. Okay, so let me click off and speed this up. Here, we'll go through this. And I'll slow it down when it gets to, okay, so here's the applique. Let me back up so you can see. All right, so it's going to do the applique placement for her dress. And I tried to make it as easy to cut. This little area right here might be a little difficult. Then it does the tack down after you put your fabric on, and you trim it. Let me back up. So it does the tack down. That's your placement. After it stitches this, you put your fabric down. It tacks it down, and you come in after this is finished, and now you trim all the way around. And then it's going to stitch down again, and it's going to put a satin stitch where it's not going to be covered up, and that is going to be right here. Whoops, right at the bottom. Sorry, I moved that. So it's going to come in, not a satin, it's going to put an open zigzag. Sheesh. Okay, and then it's going to do the sleeves. Let me speed it up. Do the sleeves there and there. And then it does the satin for her dress, and then it's going to stitch her braids. And stitch her braids, and then do the lines to make her hair actually look like it's braided. and it's going to do the bows, and then it'll go up and do the band of the hat, and then it's going to do, let me back that up. Alright, so do the band of the hat, and I'm going to slow that down. Now it's going to do a placement stitch for the hat, and then a tack down, and then you would trim it really close, and then it's going to do an open zigzag, and if you've got anything out of that zigzag, you need to trim it. Okay, so then it comes in and it's going to do a satin stitch to make sure that that's all sewn down well for you. Okay, there it's doing the satin stitch. Speed that up a little bit. Alright, and then after it finishes the satin stitch, it's going to go down here. There's your placement. Oops, let's back up. And there's your tack down. And remember, I gotta drag that all the way back around down here. Let me stop it. Stop. Let me get all the way back down to the brim. Okay, so there's your, come on, really? Alright, so there you go. Alright, so it's finishing the satin on the hat. Then it comes down and does a placement stitch for the brim. You put your fabric over that. It does the tack down. You're going to trim it after the tack down. It's going to do a zigzag, open zigzag. If you've got anything poking out from underneath it, you need to trim it. And then it's going to do a satin stitch to cover all that up and keep that stitch down well for you. Okay, so it'll go around there, and it'll go around and come back and do your satin. Okay, then it's going to do the shading and the buckle, and then it's going to do her nose, and you're done. Right? So the male applique, let's see, do I have the male applique? Well, yeah, there's the male applique. So he's basically the same as a little female applique. I don't think I went over this with you. It's basically the same. Okay, he does the shoes, the turkey feathers, the inside of the turkey feathers, his clothes, does his beard. There's your placement stitch for the beard. There's your tack down. Then you trim, and it does an open zigzag. If there's anything sticking out, you're going to trim it. Then it does the satin stitch around it. It does this little movement, kind of make the beard look like it has some curl or movement. Stitches the bands of the hat. Then it does another placement for the hat. And then it does the tack down after you've put the fabric on over this placement stitch. You put the fabric. Then it comes in and it does the tack down, and you trim it close, close, close. You don't really, you want to trim down here, okay, below that line. You can't see it under here, but there's a line right here at the bottom, so you want to make sure you trim real close to that line. Then it's going to do the zigzag. If you've got anything poking out of the zigzag, especially around up here, you want to make sure you cut it off. Then it's going to do the satin stitch. Then it's going to do the brim of the hat, a placement for you. You put your fabric over it. It does a tack down. It's going to do a zigzag. Anything pokes out, you're going to trim it. It's going to do a satin stitch. It's going to do the shading. It's going to do the buckle, the inside of the buckle, the nose, his little rosy cheeks, and his mouth. Alright, so let me get that started and you can see how that goes. I'm doing the inside feathers, then it's going to go around and do the outside feathers. Okay. And here we go. And it's going to do the inside feathers. And then it does his sleeve and his pant leg and his other pant leg and then his other sleeve, and it's going to do a placement stitch for his beard and the tack down, which you would trim. Then it does a little zigzag. Then it's going to do the satin. Okay, just make sure that you trim that fabric really close. And it does the hat band, then it does a placement. Whoa, 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 slow down. Let's go back to the beard. All right, just make sure you understand. Okay, so it's going to do the placement stitch for the beard, and then you're going to put the fabric down. I know I've said this. You're going to put the fabric down, it's going to tack it down, you're going to trim off the fabric, okay? And I know there's a couple little curves, but yeah, I've done it before. And I think I've posted some stuff that had some curves on it before. All right, then it does the little zigzag, and if there's anything poking out from that zigzag, you need to take care of it and trim it back. And then it's going to do your satin stitch. And it goes around and it kind of outlines the inside and the outside, and then it does the satin stitch on top of that. So that's just kind of a foundation for the satin stitch. Let me speed that up. All right, and then it's going to do those little wavy things in his beard, and then it's going to do his band, and then it's going to go up to the hat, and it's going to do the placement stitches, the pink, tack down, trim. Then it's going to do this little zigzag. If you've got anything out here, you want to trim it. Okay, it's going to do that. And then it's going to do the satin stitch all around the hat. Excuse me. And it's going to come down and do the same thing for the brim. The pink is the placement, you trim, and then it does the zigzag, and then it does the satin stitch. Okay, and then it's going to do the shading, and it's going to come down, and it's going to do the buckle, and then the inside of the buckle. Inside of the buckle, then it's going to do the nose and his little cheeks and his mouth, and that's it. And oops, I need to, oops, hello. Yeah, I need to move this and this up above the nose so it lays on there. All right, so it'll do his cheeks and then his mouth and then his nose. That way his nose lays on top of his cheeks. Okay, so that's all of them. The male and the female filled and the applique. And the same process is this, it's the same for whichever size, 4x4 and the 5x7. All right, I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoy these. I'd love to see what you do with them. Post a picture on the group. I really would appreciate it. Thank you so much.